What is up, Home League Pod? Week 11 in the books. We're on to week 12. We've got a new team atop the standings. We've got our first team eliminated. We'll get into everything. We'll get into the results, but this episode is going to be a little bit different. So I'm going to bring up the rundown real quick. All right, so our week in review will remain the same. We'll take a look at our week 11 results. We'll get into our prediction leaderboard standings. We'll take a look at crowns and clowns, and then we will review our fraud watch standings and median score records. From there, no guest spotlight this week. We do have a guest for you, but I sent them over some questions and they sent us back a pre-recorded answer. So we're calling that segment Rapid Fire Questions, Bro. So after that, I will then get into our booms, busts, and touchdown predictions for the weeks. Those will be our guests' predictions. And then from there, I will take it away into a schedule preview. We'll take a look at some of the weeks ahead and some of the playoff scenarios that are unfolding in front of us. So with that, let's kick things off. We've got Nick versus Steve. Nick had a couple decent performances. Tyrone Tracy goes for over 100 yards total. Kyron Williams finds the end zone, over 90 yards in the ground. But other than that, Nick really didn't have a great week. He only scored 60.82 points, but it was enough. It was enough to beat Steve, who had a historically rough week at 31.14 points. Patrick Mahomes with 13, one of his worst performances of the season. Outside of that, Steve couldn't get anything going. 0 points from the Patriots running back, Jennings, and then pretty much under 50 yards for every other player and no touchdowns. So a little bit of a tough week, but Steve is moving on. So our next matchup, this is where we get our first eliminated team. Tyler bounces back after a loss last week, I think. And then Evan unfortunately takes his 9th loss of the season. He is officially eliminated from playoff contention and will focus on not coming in last. Pretty tragic. He had Ken Walker, Jordan Addison, and Trey Tucker all find the end zone. But Drake May just wasn't there this week. And then Ricky Pearsall has 1 catch for 0 yards. So I know Evan was waiting for him to come back. But unfortunately, just kind of a lost season for both Ricky Pearsall and now it appears Evan. Our third matchup of the week, another bit of a blowout here. Josh Allen, 6 touchdowns in that 10 a.m. time window. Blows out Lamar Jackson, who had kind of another rough day after coming back from that hamstring injury a few weeks ago. 2 interceptions, under 200 yards, no touchdowns. Jimmy had a great performance from Michael Wilson and Jahmyr Gibbs, but nobody else really stepping up. Meanwhile, I had Saquon Barkley go for around 80 yards. Trey McBride had 10 catches, over 100 yards, and a touchdown as well. And that was enough to put Jimmy away. Our next matchup, Bill. This one looked a little bit tighter earlier on, but unfortunately Justin Herbert really let Jesse down this week after having a number of strong performances in the prior weeks. Ashton Genty doesn't really do too well against a retooled Dallas defense, and Jalen Warren, again, all 3 players I predicted on the pod last week to have decent performances, unfortunately fall short. Jalen Warren with an ankle injury. Some positives, Deebo Samuel has a good day, Jameson Williams has a good day, George Kittle has a great day, but again, not enough to take down Bill, who finds another W after having a QB score under 10 points. Devon Achane goes for 17.5, Christian McCaffrey goes berserk with 3 touchdowns and 30 fantasy points, and Drake London goes for over 100 yards on the day again. Moving on to our next matchup, our first kind of close matchup. Dan takes the victory from Glenn, sends Glenn down to 7-4. Dan pulls himself up to 6-5 on the back of Derrick Henry. Kareem Hunt finds the end zone. Nico Collins finds the end zone. Travis Kelce seems to have turned back the clock. And on the other side, Glenn, a good day from James Cook, a good day from Travis Etienne, but unfortunately could not get anything else going and did not get enough from Lamb on Monday night. Hate to do this to you, but there was also a blunder. Glenn gets the blunder alert. He could have started Christian Watson, who scored 2 touchdowns against the Giants over either A.J. Brown, who has been struggling this season, or Quinshon Judkins. Could have started him over Judkins as well. So that gets the blunder alert. And then our final matchup of the week, Theatrics, Monday Night Heartbreakers. Ryan goes into Monday Night Football with the lead over Brendan, but George Pickens goes for 9 catches, 144 yards, and a touchdown to propel Brendan to victory, keeping his season alive. Meanwhile, Ryan on the other side sees another breakout performance from Travion Henderson. Jackson Smith-Njigba goes for a good day. Chase Brown continues his late season push, but unfortunately it was not enough to get the victory from Brendan. He falls to 6-5. those are our results. Now we're moving on to this week's prediction leaderboard. So Evan is the new contender here. He was able to get 3 out of 6 on the matchups and only 1 out of 6 on the anytime touchdown. He predicted the T. Higgins touchdown. So that's our new standings here. Moving on to clowns and crowns. A bit of an interesting thing going on the clown side. I'm not sure that we've seen this before. Steve obviously takes the clown for the lowest total team score. Jesse takes it for quarterback with Justin Herbert, but Steve grabs the clown hat trick at running back, wide receiver, and tight end and flex this week again. Did not have a player score a touchdown or break 50 yards outside of Pat Mahomes. On the crown side, Tyler gets the crown of the week for team total score. Josh Allen earns the QB crown with 44 points, or 42, whatever he had. Ryan grabs it for running backs with Travion Henderson and Rico Dowdle. Tyler pops up again with the wide receiver crown, with Teteroa McMillan going for 2 touchdowns and 26 fantasy points, and Brendan on the back of Sean Tucker and Mark Andrews scoring 4 total touchdowns. Sean Tucker just with a monster day in Buffalo. So those are our clowns and crowns for week 11. Moving on to Fraud Watch. So some interesting updates here. Bill has officially tied Tyler for the top median score and head-to-head record at 16-6. I am sitting one behind them at 15-7. Glenn follows that at 14-8. Steve and Jimmy and Ryan in the mix there at 13-9 and 12-10. And then Dan and Nick now tied at 9-13, despite the differences in their records. 9-13 for each of them, while Brendan, Jesse, and Evan take up the end here of our median score standings. So moving over to our bar graph, you can see it was 82.92 this week. That's what you needed to expect to win. Pretty interesting. We had obviously really low score. That doesn't affect this. It's just the 2 6th and 7th place finishing teams. That's what affects the median score. So it doesn't matter how well a team does or how bad a team does. The median score is probably going to stay somewhere pretty level, which is why we use median. All right, moving on to our next section. I'm just, again, preface this a little bit. We're moving pretty quickly. We've got good time today. Couldn't find a time to connect with Steve, so I sent him some questions. I'll have those questions posted next to his video, but I'm going to go ahead and start his section. Oh, that's the surprise. Steve is the guest for this week. There's only now 2 left. Not going to be too hard to predict who's coming up, but with that being said, here is our next segment.
All right, guys, this is my segment. Jack and I couldn't find a time to meet, so it's just going to be me and you for probably a minute max. All right, so I'm going to go with the questions here. Jack asked me, how much does reputation matter to you? After finishing last more times than you made the playoffs, you're now chasing your 5th playoff trip in 6 years with a championship in 2022. So how much does reputation matter to you? I don't give a fuck. All right. Reputation doesn't matter. Where was JT on your draft board? Question number 2. What draft board? I didn't have a draft board. Did not have a draft board. I looked at the rankings just when I got to Brennan's house. I had no idea who I was going to pick. But honestly, at 11, I feel like 11th pick, I feel like Taylor was a kind of a shoe in there. I think St. Brown was still in the mix too. I ended up getting him in the turnaround, but Jay Taylor, I feel like he kind of fell to me on pick 11. Question number 3: who do you trust more to bounce back, Mahomes or St. Brown? Guys, I haven't watched fucking football in 4 weeks. I don't even know. My team scored 31 points last week. I mean, everybody is going to bounce back this week as long as they score more than 3 points. But I guess I would say St. Brown is more likely to bounce back. I think Mahomes has averaged like 13 points the last 2 weeks. So, yeah, St. Brown, because I don't know. I don't fucking know. I don't know why. I feel like he's going to. And then question number 4. Let me just get rid of question number 3. Okay. Question 4. Who are you expecting to score the most fantasy points outside of Taylor, Mahomes, and St. Brown? So those are my 3 best players. I feel like my team besides those guys just kind of sucks. Let me look at my team because I don't fucking know what I'm about to say here. Um, I think Worthy. Worthy's gonna score the most fantasy points outside of Taylor, Mahomes, and St. Brown. Um, Strictly based on the fact that I traded for him and I just want him to succeed. But yeah, that's my segment, guys. I fucking sure. Yeah, that's yep. All right.
All right, thank you, Steve. Appreciate that segment. I just want to say to the camera after that, I am filled with immense rage at how much better Steve and Jimmy are at this than I am. So next year, Steve and Jimmy, you guys want to host pod? All right, so moving on to our booms and busts. Obviously, let's get that logo up. I will go ahead and review Steve's predictions. Again, these are not my predictions. These are Steve's predictions, and we're also going to do the 6-player parlay here as well. You'll see a little football next to the players that Steve thinks are going to score. Got a couple that are controversial, not controversial, but may or may not end up playing. So maybe we'll make some liberties on who we actually end up saying. Or maybe we'll just hold you to it, and you can predict some hurt people scoring touchdowns. All right, so our first matchup in the bowl for last place or the bowl for not last place, whatever you want to call it, we've got Jesse and Evan. Jesse could push Evan down to 10-2, pick himself up to 4-8. Really put some distance between him and Evan for last place. But Steve has Jesse taking this one over Evan. He's got Trey Tucker, who he traded to Evan, busting in Cleveland. And then he's got Jerry Jeudy on the other side, booming. Meanwhile, Ashton Genty finds the end zone. Could be tough against Cleveland, but we'll find out. All right. Next matchup. In another matchup where two fates, totally different worlds. Brendan looking to stay alive at 4-7. Tyler looking to push up for that bye and first placed finish at 7-4. Tyler's projected to win big time. Steve's got him winning. He's got Tedero McMillan going off against San Fran on Monday night, scoring a touchdown. And then he's got Aaron Jones against Green Bay and that tough Green Bay defense busting. All right, moving on to another one where we've got Nick looking to keep his season alive and Jimmy looking to stay in a good spot, not looking to panic too much in these last 3 weeks at 6-5. Rillo, again, on a little bit of a roll, but Steve is taking Jimmy to win this one. He's got Devonta Adams against Tampa Bay on Sunday Night Football going for a boom. He's got Kyron Williams scoring a touchdown, and he's got Justin Jefferson against Green Bay busting. So Steve is really liking that Green Bay defense this week. Moving on to his own matchup. Steve takes himself to beat Glenn. Steve looking to stop a skid after dropping one last week, and Glenn really looking to fix something that's going on. He's got 3 straight losses, looking to avoid 7-5. But Steve has taken himself really tight on the projections. Steve has David Montgomery going for a boom against the Giants. Meanwhile, he's got Ramondre Stevenson getting back in the lineup for the Patriots and scoring against Cincinnati. If he doesn't score, we're just going to say it was Montgomery for the... Actually, you know what? Steve didn't tell me. We'll say it was Jonathan Taylor. So we'll put Jonathan Taylor in for Ramondre if Ramondre doesn't play. If he does, we'll keep it. But then on Glenn's side, he's got James Cook playing tonight on Thursday Night Football against the Houston Texans, busting. Moving on to myself and Ryan. He's got his first underdog. Second. There was another underdog in there. But he's taken me over Ryan. He's got Puka Nacua as well as Devonta Adams going for a boom and Kyron Williams scoring. So Steve is seeing a lot of points from the Rams. He's got Trey McBride scoring a touchdown in his 6th or 7th straight matchup. And he's got Travion Henderson against Cincinnati busting. Again, Steve is the Ramondre Stevenson manager and has a little bit of interest in seeing that happen. So, moving on to our final, most pivotal matchup for the week. We've got Bill at 6-5 going up against Dan at 6-5. Pretty much polar opposite seasons. Dan, 6-5, but not doing so great against the median score, not scoring a ton of points. Has kind of been fortunate, given his schedule. Bill, opposite scenario, starts 0-5, scoring a ton of points, but again, just doesn't really have the wins to show for it. So, whoever takes the W here really helps their standings in playoffs. And whoever loses is going to put themselves in a much more challenging position. So Steve has Bill taking this one. He's got Christian McCaffrey finding the end zone. He's got Bucky Irving, if he plays, going for the boom. And then the other side, he has Emmanuel Wilson going for the bust. Emmanuel Wilson projected as a starter now, but Josh Jacobs was practicing today, so we will see what happens. All right, that takes us through all of our predictions. So what we're going to do now in the next segment, I'll stick on the screen in a little tiny corner toward the left, and I'm going to go walk us through all of the schedules for the next couple weeks and just kind of highlight some key matchups as we move forward. All right, so for week 12, I'm just going to go ahead and put Steve's predictions in. We'll take myself, we'll take Steve, we'll take Jesse, we'll take Jimmy, we'll take Tyler, and we'll take Bill. So if that were to happen, I would clinch the first playoff spot. No other teams would be eliminated, but Bill would jump all the way to third at 7-5. He'd have the point breaker over Glenn, Steve, Jimmy, and Ryan, presumably. Obviously, it could change. This does not predict how many points you score. It will tell you the difference if you get this to highlight. Come on now. All right, so you can see here, it'll walk you through what the difference is, how many more points you need to score than other teams. But this would see Ned get pushed right outside. It would see Nick not be able to move ahead. And it would have Jimmy and Ryan in pretty good spots. I'm sorry, Jimmy and Steve in pretty good spots. So moving on to week 13. Again, if that were to be the case, we've still got some good matchups either way, but we'd have really electric matchups between Dan and Jimmy. We'd have some really good ones between Ty and Bill. Again, that would be that third versus second matchup. I believe Bill could overtake Tyler in points, but that's actually really tight. Tyler and Bill are very close on points. If I lose and either of those guys win, they could start pushing for the bye really strong. And then you'll have Ryan versus Nick. Could be a really, really strong or really interesting matchup with Nick trying to make that final push in these last few weeks and Ryan looking to hold on. And then week 14, we'll have Steve versus Jimmy. Just feel that you can circle that one. And then you'll have Tyler versus Ryan. I think you can go ahead and circle that one as being pretty important. So obviously some runaway, 2-week winning streaks could change this. Maybe this one gets a little bit more interesting. But right now we're looking, again, I'd circle on your calendar, Jimmy versus Steve, Tyler versus Ryan, week 14. And then in week 13, we'll have Dan versus Jimmy, Tyler versus Bill, and Nick versus Ryan. So those are our weeks ahead. And that pretty much does it. This is the shortest pod, I think, since we started recording, even shorter than Glenn's. Maybe new format, who knows? But thank you. We will see you next week. Shout out to our commissioner. Shout out to our champion. Shout out to myself because I'm the producer now. And yeah, that takes us away. Have a good week, everybody.